Hi guys, it's SJ. Today's video is how to Montessori on a budget, or kind of like Montessori light, I'm calling it. So I was kind of basically thinking that I am a bit of a, you know how you could be like a flexitarian? I feel like I'm like that about Montessori, which is that I am somebody who has all the principles, but maybe not all the gear. And I kind of came into Montessori early on. Like I did research it when I had my first baby, and it wasn't that huge then. I remember I went up to look around the Montessori nursery in our town, which we did have, and we had a Steiner one. Looked at all of them and kind of eventually, they were actually really expensive, weren't quite for me, but I followed all the principles at home. If you are brand new to Montessori, I am not an expert. There are some amazing Montessori channels on YouTube, and I think that's the thing, I watch them and then I get a little bit overwhelmed, like, oh, you know, they're so all in. But that's because they're often Montessori teachers. You know, it takes a lot of training to become a Montessori teacher. So it's a really old principle. Mary Montessori was an Italian physician, I think she was, and she was a medical background. She used to look after underprivileged children in Italy, and she began to realise that actually what they were lacking wasn't so much medical, it was sensory play and freedom. So they would find little materials to play with, these children who didn't have access to education or access to like toys and things like that. And so her whole ethos became around play and raising curious and kind of respectful, responsible children. And that's kind of what I've always been more into, rather than having all of the stuff. And you think about the Montessori nurseries, they're absolutely beautiful. But they are nurseries and this is a home. And nurseries are often set up to feel like home. That's the point of a Montessori nursery, that it feels like home, whereas actually I just have a home. So they can practice self-care, can be in the bathroom. They can practice small world by copying me and using the stuff that I use. So there's lots that we can do at home just by being ourselves and finding it all a little bit less intimidating. So I'm going to go through my budgets, because the reason why I say on a budget is a lot of the time it felt to me like I had to redo my house or only buy specific toys, and then a bit pricier these beautiful wooden toys at Montessori. But you can make any activity in Montessori. It's very much to do with how, it's you basically. That's what I've realised, it's just me, how I behave with my children, and you know, realising that children will never say, do you love me? They will always say, do you want to play with me? And I just think having that approach to drop everything and play being a high priority to me. And as soon as I lose my playfulness, which I have, you know, I go through weeks of just having like that, you know, especially at the moment, tough times, hashtag, you know, soon that I start to feel disconnected to the kids. And so really playing with them, and also knowing how to encourage play and encourage their independent play. Oh, my children really do play independently, particularly my daughter, who I've done this with for the longest. So let me say what I should say, which is the budget bit rather than just a life history of myself. So natural materials. So Montessori, you will probably know, mostly it's all about wooden toys, and sort of educational learning toys, so open-ended play that will focus on one particular task and skill. And in a Montessori nursery, they would have them all lined up from like easy to hard, because obviously they'd have like a bunch of children there, and the idea is children can gravitate towards whatever they want to learn at their level, and it's very child-led rather than traditional teaching, which is a teacher teaching every child the same thing at the same time in a kind of like authoritarian way. So this is very much kids can go and grab what they want to play with. So that's why they say natural materials comes from it being much more sensorial for children. Just honestly go to the charity shop. I'm a charity shop obsessed anyway, but I know a lot of people aren't, and we just walk past it and think, oh, don't really want to go in there to buy anything for my kids. But don't think of it as like secondhand broken toys. Think of it as all the natural materials. I've got beautiful wooden bowls. I've made beautiful like trays, there's baskets, and sorting and organising your stuff, which I'll tell you about in a minute, in a Montessori way, is a lot of the principle of how children get inspired to go and play with it. And these natural materials. So what I often do is I go into Amazon, like I just did today, and then I had a look through all of the kind of Montessori toys to get ideas of how we can do things. And then I go into the charity shop and look for how I can make that myself from little materials that I can find at the thrift store. It's much more exciting and fun, it's cheaper, and it's much more sustainable way of shopping. So really do start to get yourself down there, and I will do a whole thrifting my Montessori wish list, maybe in the same video, or will be the next one, because I'm going to go to charity shop in a minute. I've got a really good one near me. Self-care stations. So I'm really into these self-care stations at the moment. There's one thing that I've always done is had the kids' cups and bowls at a low level in a low cupboard where they can reach them themselves. And I've been buying the bamboo cups, so they are proper cups, but they won't smash, even though at Montessori they do say use glass, and get them pouring their own cups. We do all of that stuff. We never worry about spills. We always have the kitchen roll, and we've got our towels low down as well, so they can go and clean up any spills that they make as well. We've got a little mini hoover that they can use, and making sure that all of that is just really accessible. So go around your house and go, okay, if I want my children to help me lay the table, how easy is that for them? Even if that means your kids' knives and forks are in a low tray on a lower cupboard than you would naturally think where your knives and forks would go. Move everything down. It's really, really easy. Toothbrushes as well, the bathroom, going through the bathroom, and I did a whole video on it was gentle parenting potty training, and about creating a little self-care station for them as their potty training, which I will link below as well. It was a little bit different. It wasn't labelled Montessori, but it was about gentle parenting, which is very much the same. Really what you're looking is for giving them as much independence as possible and respecting them as human beings who it's their home as much as yours, and you're not in control, and it stops you getting frustrated, like, why do I have to do everything? Because I put everything out of your reach. And I do everything because I want to help you, and then I get annoyed about it. So that's kind of me. How to make any activity Montessori is just how you organise it. So Montessori activities normally have a beginning, middle and an end. That's how I always think of it. So if I'm going to give Evelina a puzzle, you can deconstruct the activity. So basically, rather than just giving her a box with a puzzle in, you can take all the pieces out and put them in a little basket for her, all laying the right way up, or a little tray. Put the picture at the beginning so she can see that, and then the box at the end so she also tidy up her own activity. And the same when she used to love playing with babies. If she wanted to do role play with babies, you put all the babies' clothes and bottles and things in one basket. The babies like with no clothes on in the middle, and then maybe little things to wash up or put them away in their little beds at the end. So she knew there was a beginning, a middle and an end to the activity, and it just leads them through it if they're not naturally able to play so much, come up with their own ideas. It's a good way of setting anything out to be Montessori. And as we said, you aren't running a Montessori nursery, luckily. You are a one-on-one at home with your child, so you can do one activity at a time. We don't have to have these, sometimes I have got up early and set out all of the house I have, because I know sometimes I can go a bit extra, but I don't really do that so much anymore now that the kids are older and can go for their activities themselves. Just let them, but it is fun sometimes to set up little stations. It is, but that's more for me. An organised environment. I do not have an organised environment. I'm bad at that. So we do have the IKEA storage just with baskets, and each basket would have Lego in it, or it would have dolls in it, or it would have vehicles in it. So we do organise like that, and she can easily access all of those. We've got one in her bedroom, one in the dining room downstairs so she can play, and then we'll get things out and kind of you can rotate around. There's quite a good budget system that we have there. But things like our arts and crafts, it's a disaster, but it is very much how it works for us at the moment, which is the cupboard in our kitchen. I found having a small table, the small tables from IKEA, the little kid-sized tables, for us didn't work. So we did it for a little while, and the boys used to even eat on that little mini table, which was quite good for children for their posture and things. But they couldn't do their arts and crafts because they just had needed to spread out a lot more. And it used to be kind of frustrating if it was on the one big dining room table. So now they just spread it all over the floor. And that's always how the boys did it. That's how Evelina does it. So she just get everything out and it'll just be all over the kitchen floor. And then at the end of the day, we just tidy it all up, put it all back in the cupboard. It's just the way that it is. I find it's just easier for her to get everything out. She'll just get everything out and have a look at it all, and she'll mosey around, she'll be cutting, sticking. And the floor is her canvas, and that's just the way it is in my house. But you may prefer to, I would love to make over our utility room. I really would love for your utility room to be almost like a kind of her creative hub, if you like, so it's not right in the kitchen. But am I going to complain about it? No, I'm not. I don't mind. Audio and using audio as much as possible is really, really handy. So we do have Audible subscription. I also really love the Calm app. Absolutely love it, especially for bedtime. And we have a Tony's box, which is like a kids audio music box, and she uses that every single day, and I think it can change the vibe of your home. So if you want a kind of a higher vibe, you put on your nursery tracks and she'll play, she'll have that on in the background, and I think it's really good for their vocabulary as well. The repetition of the nursery songs is just really nice to have on, and then turn it off for quiet calm time. You can put some quiet gentle music on. So using audio, thinking about how you're using music, because you can just have it on Spotify, there's so much now, but it's a really nice tool to use. And then when none of the kids are here, I do like to have nothing on, no TV, nothing on, and we try not to have just background TV on. My middle son's quite bad, he'll come in and just put the TV on really, really loud. We always say to turn it off, it's sort of forget that it's on, and you're like, what have you done? But we're not like that as a family. We'd just rather have something on that's really zoning into them and their play. A great thing to pick up at the charity shop is a magazine rack. They always have these beautiful cane magazine racks or wood ones, and I see them all the time in the charity shop for some reason. I absolutely love ours, and at Montessori they do talk about when your child's going through a sensitive period for learning something. So at the moment, both Finn and Evelina are really into books. I've really started to notice it. She got really into stories, reading to herself. I mean, she'll get a book out and just be reading the story through to herself. And I think it's because she can remember her stories really well now, so she'll almost sound like she's reading it. But she's not, she's just kind of got that memory. Finn started to pick up and read chapter books, so she's almost mimicking him. And obviously Freddie, my oldest, he reads to himself, so they sort of copy him. So having a magazine rack and then having it downstairs, and I'm going to try more rotating my books. So we've got so many beautiful books, and at the moment they're kind of up and stored out of reach, and then I take some down, put them in the magazine rack. Then the last thing is just to really practice positive discipline, which costs you absolutely nothing. So it's all about trying not to bribe with rewards and trying not to punish your children. I've done a whole series on gentle parenting and positive discipline here. So again, you can go back and look at positive discipline for toddlers and how to deal with tantrums. You can go and look at play therapy that I've done here on my channel, and then just the basic principles of gentle parenting, which is very much not about being permissive, but it's not about feeling in control of your children and punishing them for feelings by accident, because we don't realise they're having a feeling, not a behaviour, and then also not trying to do this reward cycle that we end up in, that they're cooperating just to get something. Once you strip out the rewards, it is so much more of a natural, gentle cooperation between you and your kids. I've done loads of videos on it, and I feel like for me, I'd rather be focused on that than stressed that I didn't have a bed on the floor and a little IKEA kitchen with running water that I can't possibly even figure out how people make. People are so amazing at it. Or that, I do have plastic toys. I've got plastic toys everywhere in my house because I've got 3 children and they've all got passed down, and that's just how it's going to be for a while. And I'm not going to stress about that. I'm worried about how I treat my children and how they feel that their home is their space as well. So anyway, that is my Montessori on a budget, or my Montessori Light. I don't know if it's Montessori Light, I'm not an expert. You tell me what out of this has been most interesting and helpful. I really want to do that little haul. I'm going to start it now, but it might take me a few days to go around to a few different charity shops and find some great Montessori buys. And I'll see you on my next video, and as I said, all that other stuff will be linked below. Lots of love, guys. Bye bye.